You've had Texas barbecue, but have you had Cespedes barbecue? Well, we got them here, and they're going to hang out with us and talk to us about the Astros' chances of getting another championship and a back-to-back title on this edition of Locked On Astros.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Veer leans back. This game is turned upside down. There's the runner. Fly ball down the right field line. Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they finish the job.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive. Positive when I had these guys on the show. I love it. Always Stros.
All right, and we got some Astros pitchers in the chat in the video room today. We got JP France, and then we have Brandon Barbque. I'm going to go and let them introduce themselves.
What's up, everybody? I'm Brandon Barbque, a.k.a. Jake Mintz, one half of the Cespedes Family Barbecue and co-host of the Baseball Barbecue podcast. And I got to say, guys, that intro went really hard. I need to regain my breath. And I think I'm an Astros fan now. Like, that got me amped up.
I'm just like here, and I was like, man, yeah, that's like their thing. They just win all the time. Defending champions. It's not going to be quite as easy this year, gentlemen, but we are excited to be here. I'm Jordan Schusterman. I am the number one JP France fan. I have been dating back to probably May 1st. But I am.
Did you guys know that JP France's wife was on Survivor or Big Brother?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. MTV Jess. Yeah. She's a, kind of a superstar in her own making.
Absolutely. Bigger deal. And the 5-star for the Astros.
That's right.
It's kind of crazy that's the case. But guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go and subscribe to us. Go and give us a big fat thumbs up, and go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB or enter promo code LockedOnMLB for a free water bottle with any order. You don't want to take off your Bird Dogs. We promise you. Brett goes to every Astros game wearing a Bird Dog. I'm sure he does. So we're going to be talking to these guys down here about the Astros. What does it look like from the outside? I mean, I know we're frustrated as Astros fans. This season has been ups and downs, but we're still in first place with 9 games left, and it's just what's going to happen from here. I mean, you have a half-game lead over 2 teams. If you lose, you're basically out of the playoff picture. This is unheard of so late in the season, and so guys, kind of looking at it as an outsider, what's going on with the Astros?
I think that the thing you have to feel great about, besides the fact that they have given us no reason to doubt them at really any point, even when they have looked like not their best selves in 2020, for example. You know, they still managed to make it almost to the World Series. Like, we've come to trust it. I am, as you can see my King Felix K in the background, I am a Mariners fan here in enemy territory on this podcast. And I know as well as anybody how good the Astros are. You don't have to explain it to me. I respect the hell out of what they have built and the players that are involved. However, I can tell you guys are sweating a little bit. This is unfamiliar situation to be sitting here with the playoffs so close, but you can't say you're gearing up for the playoffs because you might not be there.
Wow.
I know. But what I was kind of leading to is that you do have to feel good that the Mariners and Rangers are about to play each other and beat each other up, because I think that is a part of the schedule, on top of the fact that, you know, they have Kansas City, who I guess they just lost to last week, but they have Kansas City coming to town. Like, that I think has to make you feel a little bit better that those 2 teams are probably going to exhaust each other in some form for them to hopefully, in your case, be able to move away for them and get the once again another AL West title. But that's where I'm at. So I know how good they are. You don't have to explain it to me. But it is definitely an interesting time. But Jake, what do you think?
I mean, when it all comes down to it, what team do you think right now is going to make it out of the American League? The Astros. If you look at betting odds online, the Astros are still the favorite to win the American League. If you ask anybody inside baseball who's going to be the rep, they'll say the Astros. And that's because everyone's going to bet on Houston until they prove everyone else wrong by losing. There's no reason to doubt this operation. We've seen it now for almost a decade, which is really jarring. We're coming up on it in a couple years. And they just keep winning when their backs are against the wall. And so right now, who do I think is going to win the AL West? Houston. Who do I think is going to win the American League? Houston. Who do I think is going to win the World Series? The Atlanta Braves. But we can get to that a little bit later.
Well, Eduardo Perez did speak to the home record because they're 39-39, and he said it just looks like they're bored at home. He said it looks like when they're on the road, they're engaged. They have the booze. We still have the hatred. We still have the trash can jokes, all this stuff. And at home, they're really kind of in a routine. They go to their promotional events. We were invited to Bregman hanging out at Raising Cane's. I was invited out to Uberito to meet Yanier Diaz. So they're out there doing their thing. You see them, Jake Myers, JP France, to mention a few guys that, take pictures with fans when they're on off days. And so they just kind of seem to be going through the routines. And I think what was the stalwart of last year's team, the pitching, both starting and relief pitching, which was absolute nails, it hasn't been this year because of injury, because of a lack of consistency. Now you have the Rangers who have caught up. And I honestly thought all along that it was going to be us and the Mariners. I'm still shocked that the Rangers are still where they are because I thought they would fall off, thinking that their bullpen was weak enough to where they wouldn't sustain it. And they have. And where a lot of fans feel like, they just don't play like they're a team that's on fire. When they go on the road, they absolutely mash the ball. Yeah. So we're hoping they turn that around.
In a weird way, the 2023 pitching has really made me appreciate the 2022 pitching because the group right now is not bad. This is not a bad group, especially now that Verlander's back, right? And you guys see it probably when you play other really actual bad teams. The Astros are not a bad pitching staff. It's just compared to last year, which was one of the greatest pitching staffs front to back ever assembled, it looks a lot worse.
This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an amazing app. If you use a promo code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets for any occasion, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, or anything in between. They have you covered. I have used Game Time, and I absolutely love it. You get images of the seats that you are sitting at, so you know what you're getting. And they have event cancellation protection, job loss protection, so much more. Forget planning in advance. Game Time Tickets has deals for you right away. I've literally walked up to Maid Park as I'm going in the gate, purchased a ticket, 2 clicks, and I had it. Didn't have to go through my email, sent right to my phone. If you find the same ticket and the same row and the same section for a lower price, they'll credit you 110% the difference. So check out Game Time today. Use the promo code Locked On to get $20 off. Remember, last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Make sure you check out the Astros play the Royals on Friday night, 7:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the Astros hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Astros. Yeah, it does.
So looking at the team stats, the Mariners have a 3.70 ERA. The Astros have a 4.0 ERA. And you go all the way down to 18th in baseball. The Rangers have a 4.31 ERA. I am rooting. I mean, of course, the Astros get in, but I want the Rangers to be that other wild card team because I'm more scared of the Mariners because pitching seems to do a lot better in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and I think that we saw them obviously last year, kind of the way that series went. It's just the Mariners offense was clearly not ready for the bright lights of the first home game of however many years. And the Astros pitching was good enough to hold up. And now in this case, it's a little bit maybe more imbalanced in Seattle's favor. And I think that's where it maybe becomes a little bit more balanced. At the same time, the Astros ability. And offensively, when we finally are starting to see it kind of click, mostly now we're finally actually healthy. I think the home road thing is fascinating. And it really only hit me recently looking into this. And you mentioned maybe theories about why it's a little bit more maybe distracted at home, where you are like the Astros, like this is the team, that Houston has that has been so good. I mean, the splits are honestly, wow. You say the record. Look at Yordan Alvarez on the road. Look at Altuve on the road compared to at home. It is a huge difference. And we know how talented those guys are anyway. But that's the thing that while I do think that, especially on the starting pitching side, the gap, I think Seattle maybe has taken that edge this season. I think that the offense still, in terms of reliability, especially when you've seen so many of these guys do it. I mean, the number of playoff games that these guys have played is just staggering compared to any team, let alone Seattle, right? And so that is why it's so easy to always fall back on them, and why I also think that once we're in October Houston mode, I have to imagine that at home they got to be feeling pretty good. But it is a very weird trend, because why is that happening this year? Finally, I know they're defending champs, so I guess you could say that's the difference. But it's not like they haven't been the best team or one of the best teams in baseball for, as Jake says, 5-6 years now.
Yeah, I'm sure y'all have heard about the cosmetic changes they've made at Maid Park. They've actually extended the batter's eye, and it took away part of the Budweiser sign out there. And so they made it a little bit more greener out there, because a lot of players have complained about that. And Dana Brown said that, well, they've been playing with it for the past few years. Maybe we can address it during the offseason. But all of a sudden, after getting embarrassed by the A's, it's like, let's do something about this.
That was honestly, and by the way, I'm shocked we did not get to talk about that on our podcast, but we probably should have. And honestly, we could probably bring it up again as we get to the postseason, because it was one of the weirder storylines of the year. And honestly, to your point, you mentioned embarrassed against the A's. That's such a wild thing. Like, if a regular normal team had done that to them, were they not about to go change just the fact that they were like, this is an emergency, that we just got embarrassed by the worst team in the league, we have to change the stadium because of it, is an absurd reaction, and honestly kind of embarrassing on their front to admit that you have to change those things, and just kind of weird. I don't want to make too much of it, because it doesn't make me think that these guys are not good hitters and can't be good hitters, but the fact that they were almost admitting that that's how they felt at a disadvantage at home is really, really strange.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And hey, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do want to make sure that those of y'all listening, check out their Barbecast Q. It releases every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning on all major podcast platforms, and starting October 15th to the end of the World Series, they'll have new episodes. So definitely check that out. And since you are the number one JP France fan, I want to make sure I say that right. And golly, you bring back Galveston's own Brandon Barbque.
Game 4 of the World Series, 2005. Dude, people forget.
That guy was a playoff stud. Hey, he likes to punch people in bars and all that stuff. I won't go there. But
wait, did he really do that? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. But it's all good. Look. Brandon likes to rumble. Okay, so let me ask you this: the third and the fourth starter, we know it's Valdez. Oh, he's got a Brandon Barbque signed hat. He's not sending it to you though. You can't have it. But we have Verlander, we have Valdez, our 1 and 2, or our 1 and 1A. Mm-hmm. I've always said JP France should be third. Christian Javier should be fourth, just because of Javier's just now starting to come on. What do you guys see? Like Astros third and fourth pitcher in this lineup. And notice I didn't even mention Hunter Brown, who I thought I would be mentioning with a lot of confidence. And he did recently throw a 5-inning no-hitter. They almost had a multiple, pitcher no-hitter again. But who do y'all think is the third and fourth in this rotation going to the playoffs? If you were Dusty, who would you put in there?
So the first thing I'll say is, in a 5-game set, I don't think they need a fourth starter. Right. I would run either Verlander or Framber back. Would that be short? I guess it would be 4 days rest.
Right.
I think that's a better option than any of the other guys they have. And so what that means is game 3 can kind of be a hodgepodge of different people. I would probably start Hunter Brown. That would be my pick. I think Javier the season he's had is so odd, the strikeouts dipping while the walks have stayed very high. That's just not someone I feel comfortable with starting that type of profile. I guess what's the other option? France and Jose Urquidy? Urquidy's not going to pee his pants, right? Like he's been in that spot before. So I would say if gunned ahead, I would say Brown in 3, Urquidy in 4. That's probably what I would do.
But as Jake says, like it depends how you line it up. But you could do a piggyback situation. Maybe you do trust Javier more in the role that he used to be in, where you can bring him more in the third, fourth innings. And as for JP France, like if you're a non-Astros fan and you're pulling up their baseball reference page and you're looking at the numbers and you say, okay, well, France is like the only Astros pitcher that doesn't strike anybody out. I mean, Urquidy fits that description too, but I know he missed a lot of time, but France has still had success in that way. And so I think especially when you're piggybacking, you do want to have 2 as different pitchers as possible. So whether that is France and Brown, whether that is France and Javier, that's who's to say. But if they
You're certainly not piggybacking France and Urquidy.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's very unlikely. So it is going to be about kind of finding that balance. But I will say, like, and I know that the numbers have been a little bit, we've seen some rougher starts. I say here I label myself as the number 1 JP France fan, and as I've gone on all these Locked On shows, I want to shout out some of the lesser known players in the team. The truth is, I've been the number 1 Framber Valdez fan dating back to before he debuted. And I remember in the 2020 postseason, I was screaming at everyone, like, you will know this guy. This guy's curveball is amazing. You will love watching this guy pitch. And that has proven to be true. And that is why even when I look at the Verlander numbers, like the Valdez element is still so big. And I still so much trust him. And again, in those short, like winning those early games is still going to put them in a position of strength. So it's interesting to see how there are questions there. And Hunter Brown, I was high on this season, and when he's on, man, like, but he's the volatility there. You don't know if you can really trust that. I know there's been a discussion about his innings, and obviously the command is really kind of all over the place. So I don't know where are you guys at? Where are you guys at? I mean, it sounds like you are also a number 1 JP France fan, but I mean, who after that? Like, where are you at with Javier? Javier, as Jake mentioned, has to be one of the stranger, more disappointing seasons of any pitcher this league, right? This year. It doesn't mean he's buried forever and he'll never be a great starter again. But talk about a guy that people calling him Cy Young potential. Oh my gosh, breakout pick. And it's easy to get swept up in the postseason hype. I mean, look at Jeremy Pena, right? And if you really dug into Jeremy Pena, I'll say, I don't got to tell you guys because you guys watched him for all of last regular season, right? You could see that regression coming. Still a good player, still a good guy to have on the team. But, October magnifies things in a lot of ways that can kind of mislead what you expect the next regular season. But Javier is one that I was pretty sold on more than Pena. Pena, I could see the regression coming. I was sold on Javier. I thought he was going to be a really special kind of guy, and he hasn't been that this year. Maybe he can still show it, but it's been interesting.
Well, his first 14 starts, I think he had a 2.70 ERA. Then his next 14 starts, he had a 6.70 ERA. Or something. And then he had that game he had last night where he had 11 strikeouts, only allowed the 1 run. And he showed glimpses of the dominant Christian Javier that we've been seeing. So a lot of people are saying, well, he got the extension. Maybe that kind of made him get a little lazy on the mound and maybe not have that hunger anymore. So I don't think that's the case. I just think that the league is figuring him out and he has to make that adjustment. And I think that the pitching coaches are working with him. And when he's on, he's probably the best pitcher on the team. I think Framber Valdez is good, but when when Javier is on, he has the best stuff. Framber Valdez knows what to do with it, and he can pitch deeper in games. But pure stuff, I think Javier, when he's on, he has that.
And it sounds, and I still would take Framber on his best day, but I hear what you're saying. Last year we saw it in the playoffs, obviously the no-hitter, but that was true before the no-hitter. He was literally the hardest pitcher to get a hit against.
Right.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Snap into action with the NFL season that's here. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's right. $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Just bet $5. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than now to get into the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over and unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. You won't go wrong betting $5 and getting a guaranteed $200 in bonus bets. Check it out, FanDuel. It's where the game starts, and FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, and if you're worried about where you're going to be able to watch those games for FanDuel or watch the Astros, if you can't watch them at home, you can go hang out with your buddies at the world-famous Hooters. That's right. TVs everywhere, and not just for baseball, football, basketball, UFC, whatever the event is. They have amazing stuff, amazing prices. And look, every week they have specials. Mondays, buy one, get one wings. Tuesdays, $9.99 burgers and fries. Wednesdays, buy one, get one boneless wings. Thursdays, $19.99 wings and Big Daddy Bundle. Friday, $19.83 crab legs. $3 Blue Moon drafts every day. $9.99 Michelob Ultra pitchers, and so much more. No matter the occasion, whether you're hanging out with your buddies, watching the Astros, or you're playing fantasy football, go check it out. Make sure that you check out NASA Hooters. They have Thursday night karaoke after Thursday night football, and they have happy hour till close. And the surrounding areas, whether you're in Pearland, Pasadena, Seabrook, Katy, Humble, Galveston, wherever you are, Sugarland, it doesn't matter. Hooters is there. Why? Because they're to make you happy. And if you tell them that you're there from Locked On Astros, they'll give you a free basket of fried pickles. So go check it out. Go grab some great grub, bring your buds, and have some brews. All the beers on tap are great, and it's where the guys at Locked On Astros hang out. So make us your first team every day, your first listen, and make them your first drink every day. Go Stros. Make sure you check out the Astros play the Royals on Friday night, 7:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the Astros hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Astros.
Right.
Yeah,
And
he was like maybe 19 innings away from being in consideration of the Cy Young last year. He had I think about 19 more innings, he could have been a consideration as a Cy Young nominee because of his strikeout rate was unreal. His invisible is something I've written about before. And you talk about Framber's his curveball, and what that means to his repertoire. It earned Mike Trout even saying something early on that this is the nastiest pitch that I've seen in baseball. But one of the things I think about too when I look at these pitchers, and I look at pitchers now, and Eric talks about adjusting, the league adjusting. Back in the day when you had the Tom Seavers, the Nolan Ryans, even going up to the Randy Johnsons, even though guys like Tony Gwynn would get VCR tapes and they would watch pitchers and they would study, they still don't have the analytics that the clubs have now. And so I think the adjustment pitchers have to make is almost a lot more strategic than what the hitter has to make, because the hitter is now armed with more data, with more information. And Framber's that guy that he's so dependent on the release, his release point, where his elbow slot is, everything, that if it's not on, he's all over the place. And you, with the concentration on spin rate and with the concentration on velocity, you don't have a guy like Greg Maddux who knew the importance of placing the ball versus getting it there faster and harder. And so that right there makes things a lot more complex. But we had talked about it before we got going on here, the catcher position. Last year we had signed one Christian Vasquez, a signing that everyone's like, oh my gosh, here's a guy that's going to come in.
Traded for him.
Right. We basically traded for him. He came in and we got him on the team. And this is a guy that is an all-star catcher. He's younger. He's better at the plate. And he got more opportunities in the playoffs than we thought he would. He caught more. He caught the combined no-hitter. Do you guys think that with Yanier Diaz, this guy, his OPS is crazy. When he plays in the field, whether it's catcher or first base, he's a completely different player. This kid absolutely rakes. Does Dusty Baker do what he did last year with Vasquez? And does he give Yanier Diaz more opportunities to catch because he knows the weapon he has behind the plate? What do y'all think?
I think, it's so hard with Maldonado, right? Like,
It is.
Maldonado's metrics are not very good, but it's clear that he is good at catching. We know that. The Astros are a smart organization and would not be running out Martin Maldonado as often as they are if they didn't believe that he was helping the team win baseball games. And I think that's a fact. In the playoffs, that stuff gets really, like, it goes under a microscope because every pitch matters, every out matters.
Right.
So pitch selection matters a lot more. I imagine that Maldonado will start the majority of games behind the plate. Now, what that means is, how do you get Diaz in the lineup? Well, then you have to DH him. And if you have to DH him, then you have to put Jordan in left, right? And if you put Jordan in left, that leads to the domino effect of someone else has to lose at bats, right? Probably Michael Brantley at that point, who has struggled, has not looked the same since he's got back. Now, will Dusty Baker do that? No. I think Dusty is going to roll the dice with Brantley and trusts Brantley more than he trusts Diaz. And I know that has been a point of contention in Astros world over the last couple months.
Yeah.
But I don't really expect that to change unless someone in the Astros front office basically says, hey, Dusty, this is your lineup. Like, you have to do this.
And, bigger picture, like, there's a version of the Astros lineup, as we just saw last year, that doesn't need Diaz, right? But when you see what he's been doing, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball in the second half. That it's absolutely maddening to see, even with understanding the defensive limitations, that you're not seeing him as often as you would like to. It is fascinating to see. You see this with some other guys in terms of DH versus in the field. I mean, his offensive numbers are way better when he catches, as I'm sure you guys know, or plays first, than when he's a DH. That's a very stark thing. Also, interesting thing about Yanier, awesome at home. Has not been nearly as good on the road. So that's also
excellent at home. Yeah, like almost 60 points higher at the plate.
But here's the other thing. If we're reflecting on last year, maybe Diaz can become a steady catcher that everybody trusts. Vasquez has such a fantastic defensive reputation. It made it way easier to start leaning on him. And if you watch him this year, you also know that his offensive ability was, and I say this about most catchers, and this is why you're able to roll out Martin Maldonado as much as you can, is that catchers that can hit are both so rare and you have no idea when it is just going to evaporate anyway. And so it's possible that Yanier Diaz is just the starting catcher every day next year. And he's the guy, and he's one of the best hitting catchers in baseball, and he becomes a good defender too. I'm not as familiar enough with his defensive aptitude to really know for sure. I know some of the obvious limitations, but as far as comparing it to last year, there's no way, no matter what Diaz does, that Dusty and probably the pitchers are going to trust him as much as Vasquez, because Vasquez has maybe not Maldonado level, but not that far behind. And so I think it was as much about that and the fact that any sort of upgrade offensively over Maldonado was possible. So I would like to watch Diaz, because as a neutral, we talked about this when we went on Locked On Dodgers, right? We've seen the Dodgers a billion times in a row in the postseason. I want to see something new. I want to see something interesting. I appreciate how amazing all these players on the Astros are, but I've watched them play 1,000 postseason games. Diaz is a new character. This is kind of how I felt about Chas McCormick really kind of blossoming last year. Like, that was really cool. And we haven't had that many new guys, but Diaz can absolutely be that. And by the way, I think Hunter Brown can absolutely be that too if he's on. And so that's what I'm, as a neutral, as someone who podcasts about all 30 teams and who watches all the games and who can appreciate players, even on the teams that break my heart like the Astros. Like, I want to see something different. And in the Astros case, that's playing Yanier Diaz and not Maldonado or not Brantley or whatever.
Yeah, looking at John Morosi's tweet from earlier, the AL war leaders from July 1st to the present, Chas McCormick's on there at 9th, and he doesn't even play every day. So just imagine if Chas McCormick got some more playing time, but that's a story from another day. But as we kind of close out the show, guys, which team should we be more worried about in the AL East? Is it the Orioles or is it the Rays?
That's a good question. So Jake's an Orioles fan. And I think, we started our day with Locked On Orioles. So, and we think about them a lot. And I've honestly thought about this too, just because, and the Rays and Orioles, we'll see how it shakes out. I think the Orioles are going to hang on, but you see the version of Tampa this year that is a lot more balanced. You see them really getting stronger as the season goes on in a lot of senses, even that with losing Wander Franco. So we've seen this is going to be 5 straight playoffs for Tampa Bay. Their showing last year was an abomination in Cleveland, and I still kind of can't shake that with a lot of that same lineup showing the way that it did. At the same time, man, like, I don't know, they in terms of what playoff baseball looks like, they are in a kind of built in a way to do that. But Jake, what do you think?
You just saw those. They don't know any better, man. Like they're
hungry.
They're too dumb to know that they shouldn't be this good, right? There's no reason that Cedric Mullins should be able to hit a 3-run home run off Brian Presley in the 9th inning. That should not happen, but it did, right? And I think that's because there's a level of self-belief right now with the Orioles where they should scare you more, I think.
And the thing with the Orioles too is like it's the combination of that energy, but it's like that's the energy of the team that sneaks in. The Orioles might win 100 games. And so they kind of have the combination of those things that has proven to be successful to win so much you talk about Houston being, but Baltimore, I think, has the most road wins in baseball, right? And I know the Astros aren't that far behind, but that's a really impressive thing for such a young team too.
Yeah, and they're doing it, like you said, with such young talent. They're doing it with guys that just got called up. Kirsten, the kid from Canyon, Texas. Gunnar Henderson. I mean, they've got names of superstars. Adley Rutschman. You just go through that lineup. You go through their pitching lineup, and they're built. They're built a lot like the Astros are built. They're built with Elias. With Sig, they're built with all these guys that have come over from the Astros organization and really recreated what the wave of we saw the Astros. And a lot of people say they look a lot like the 2017 Astros, where like it's going to be hard to beat them. And I think in the end,
more the 2015 Astros, to be honest.
2015. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's I'm sorry. The 2015 Astros, but I think they probably have more going for them than the 2015 Astros.
They're more complete than that team was. And I feel better about. Look, 100 games is 100 games. You can't fluke your way to that many wins.
Right. Exactly. So, look. I think this has been a great conversation. We definitely need to get you guys back on. We do appreciate you guys joining us. And again, I'll just tell everybody, go check out. They got new episodes of Baseball Barbecast, releases on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning on all major podcast platforms. Then start on October 15th and through the end of the World Series. So check those guys out. Let them know where they can find your show real quick before we wrap.
Yeah, so wherever you get your podcast, Baseball Barbecast, BAR-B-cast. And yeah, starting in the CS, we'll be going every day. I know you guys are used to the everyday grind on the Locked On Network, but we obviously are covering the whole league. And as we told Locked On Braves, there's a good chance we'll be talking about the Astros a bunch this next coming month. So
we look forward to it.
Definitely join us, and yeah, we appreciate you guys having us on.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining, and this was fun. And guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and subscribe to us and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. Become a everydayer. And this was fun, and hopefully the Astros can stay on top, because I do not want to play in that stupid wild card series, because 3 games, anything can happen. My name's Eric Huysman. He's Brett Chancey, and they are the Cespedes Barbecue guys. And thank you for joining. And Brett, anything else?
I just want to say that we welcome the opportunity for Yanier Diaz to crush the hearts of those in Seattle. We want a different role player this year. Sorry, Jeremy Pena. Step on up, Yanier Diaz. I had to. It's Locked On Astros. Thank you guys for joining us. Good luck. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. And go check them out, please. Good guys. They know their stuff. And as always, go Stros.
Go Stros. And let's beat the Orioles next time when we face them in the playoffs.